I thought I was smart. At 21 years old, I had just arrived at Princeton with a perfect score on my physics entrance exam. The only person in history to do that. People back at MIT told me I was special, a genius even. Then I found out who was coming to my first seminar. John von Neumann, the man they called the smartest human being who ever lived. And he was going to watch me present my work. Let me tell you what happened. That day taught me something about intelligence I never forgot. It started when my advisor, John Wheeler, came to me with an idea. He said to me, "Feynman, you're a young fella. You need experience giving talks. Why don't you present our work at the department seminar?" I said, "Sure." I figured it would be a few professors, maybe some graduate students. Nothing I couldn't handle. Then Professor Wigner pulled me aside in the hallway. He said to me, "Feynman, I think your work is very interesting. So I have invited Professor Russell to the seminar. Henry Norris Russell, the famous astronomer." I felt my confidence slip a little. Wigner continued, "I think Professor von Neumann would also be interested." My stomach dropped. "And Professor Pauli is visiting from Switzerland. I have invited him as well." Wolfgang Pauli, the most brutal critic in physics. If your theory had even a tiny flaw, Pauli would find it and destroy you in front of everyone. I must have turned pale. Wigner smiled and said, "Do not worry. They are very nice. They do not bite." I was not so sure about that. Now you have to understand who John von Neumann was, because this wasn't just some smart professor. When Johnny was 6 years old, he could divide 8-digit numbers in his head. Not on paper, in his head. He could also joke in classical Greek with his father's dinner guests. At 6. By 8, he had mastered calculus. By 12, he had read a 46-volume world history series and remembered all of it. His math tutor, a man named Gabor Zago, came to von Neumann's house for their first lesson when Johnny was 15. After that session, Zago went home to his wife and cried. Not because it went badly, because he had never seen anything like this boy's mind. There's a famous story about him. Someone asked von Neumann a puzzle at a party. Two bicyclists start toward each other. A fly goes back and forth between them. How far does the fly travel before they collide? There is a simple trick to solve it. Just calculate when the bikes meet and multiply by the fly's speed. Von Neumann gave the answer instantly. The person said, "Oh, you saw the trick." Von Neumann looked confused. "What trick?" he said. "I just summed the infinite series." He calculated an infinite series in his head in seconds. This was the man coming to watch me present. The day arrived. I got there early and filled the chalkboard with equations. I wanted everything perfect. Then Einstein walked in. He said hello. "I'm coming to your seminar." Just like that. Casual, like he was anybody. I nearly dropped my chalk. Einstein sat down. Then Pauli. Then Wigner. Then von Neumann. I looked at them. Nobel laureates. The founders of quantum mechanics. The people who literally rewrote the laws of physics. And me, a kid from Queens who still talked like a bum. My friends Pauli and Beth used to joke about my accent. I pulled out my notes. My hand was shaking so badly the paper was vibrating. I thought to myself, forget it. Just do the physics. Stop thinking about who is watching. Just explain what you know. So I did. I talked about our theory, how Wheeler and I had found a new way to describe electron interactions. The math was complicated, but I knew it cold. When I finished, Pauli stood up immediately. Pauli stood up and said, "I do not think this theory can be right, because of dis, and dis, and dis." He listed his objections. Then he turned to Einstein and said, "Don't you agree, Professor Einstein?" Einstein said one word, "No." A long German-sounding no. Very polite, but very clear. Einstein said he found the ideas interesting. He was tolerant of new approaches, even ones that challenged his own work. Years later, I discovered Pauli was actually right. Our theory had problems, but that day, I survived. After the seminar, von Neumann came up to me. I expected criticism, technical questions. He was the greatest mathematician alive. Instead, he smiled and said 2 words. Interesting work. That's when something shifted in my head. I had been terrified of these people. I thought they were different from me, superior, beyond human. But von Neumann was just a person. Incredibly smart, yes, but curious, open to new ideas, willing to listen to a 21-year-old nobody. I stopped being afraid of genius that day. I started seeing brilliant people as colleagues, not gods. If you're enjoying this story about how the greatest minds actually treated each other, consider subscribing. I tell stories like this every week about the real lives of legendary physicists. A few years later, I saw von Neumann again, this time at Los Alamos, in the New Mexico desert. We were both working on the Manhattan Project, trying to build the atomic bomb before the Nazis did. On Sundays, a group of us would walk in the canyons. Me, von Neumann, Hans Bethe, Bob Backer. We would hike through the desert and talk about physics, mathematics, life. Von Neumann always wore a 3-piece suit, even hiking in the canyon, climbing over rocks. The man was dressed like he was going to a board meeting. I was in my t-shirt. I thought it was hilarious. During one of those walks, von Neumann gave me advice that changed my life. We were talking about the bomb, about what it meant, about our responsibility for creating something that could kill millions. Beth was worried. We all were. And von Neumann said something I never forgot. He said, "You don't have to be responsible for the world that you're in." I thought about that for years. See, everywhere you go, people tell you what you should worry about. You should fix this. You should feel guilty about that. The weight of the world is supposed to be on your shoulders. Von Neumann was saying something different. You were born into this world. You didn't make it. You can contribute, but you don't have to carry everything. I developed what I call my sense of social irresponsibility from that advice. Not cruelty, not ignoring suffering, just understanding that you can't solve every problem. You have to choose where to put your energy. It made me a very happy man. Working with von Neumann also taught me something about different kinds of genius. Some people are brilliant because they have enormous raw power. They calculate faster, remember more, see patterns instantly. Von Neumann was like that. A human computer before computers existed. But there is another kind of brilliance. The kind that sees things differently, that asks questions nobody else thinks to ask. I was not as fast as von Neumann. Nobody was. But I could sometimes see around corners that he walked straight past. And here is what mattered. We respected each other. He did not look down on me for being slower. I did not resent him for being faster. We were just two people trying to understand the universe. Von Neumann died in 1957. Cancer. He was only 53. That was 8 years before I won the Nobel Prize. The work that grew from what Wheeler and I started. The theory I presented that day, when my hands were shaking. The last months of his life were hard. The cancer spread to his brain. Von Neumann, who could sum infinite series in seconds, could not remember basic mathematics anymore. The universe does not care how smart you are. Here is what I learned from John von Neumann. Do not be afraid of brilliant people. They are just people. Talk to them. Learn from them. Let them challenge you. And remember, the point of life is not to be the smartest person in the room. It is to understand things, to figure out how nature works, to do your part with the time you have. Von Neumann was the smartest man I ever met. What did he do with that incredible brain? The same thing I did. The same thing you can do. He tried to understand the world. I was 21, hands shaking, presenting to the smartest human who ever lived. Years later, we walked together in the canyons, two friends talking about physics and life, and he taught me the most important lesson. You do not have to be responsible for the world that you are in. Just do your part as well as you can. That is enough. If this story meant something to you, subscribe for more stories about the real lives of the scientists who changed our world. I'll see you in the next one.